The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by Subway. Subway, eat breath. By New Levitra. New choice, here now. Ask your doctor today. By WebMD, redefining modern medicine. And by the all-new Toyota Tundra Double Cab. Not just big, life-size.
Mach 3 Turbo Champion invites you to enter the Gillette Young Guns Challenge. Each week, a lucky fan will win $5,000. Just go to www.GilletteYoungGuns.com for more details. And you see the running order of some of those young guns. They've all had a successful run so far. The youngest of the guns, Casey Kane here at the Great American Speedway on lap 145, retaking the lead. We've got 152 laps, 182 to go. We have the veterans leading early. We've had, of course, from the pole, Bobby Labonte fading back. There is Casey Kane in his Evernham Dodge, and Elliott Sadler running second. Bill Elliott in the Evernham Dodge running third.
Well, so far right now, Chris, this young man right now looks like he's on a rail. Tommy Baldwin and that whole Evernham team have really got this car hooked up. And, you know, we talked a little earlier about what happened to him last week at Bristol. Well, buddy, I guarantee you right now, it definitely didn't affect his attitude as far as coming out here and getting the job done.
We'll look back in the pack a little. Jimmy Johnson and Greg Biffle, but there's Jeff Gordon up to 6, Dale Earnhardt Jr. at 7. Jeff Gordon, one of the few tracks he has not won at here, although he's run in the top 5. And you see Jeff there in his 24 car. Obviously, he's a guy who needs a win, has talked about getting back in victory lane this year.
Yeah, and when you come here at Texas, a place where he hasn't really done that well as he tries to make a move underneath Jamie McMurray, who happens to be a couple laps down, but at the same time, he really needs to get back on track. He needs some solid runs, get up there and challenge these guys, but so far he hasn't been able to do it.
All right, now let's check in for more on Jeff Gordon with Matt Yoakum. Matt?
Jeff Gordon would love to put a check mark next to Texas on a win list. He's come close here, finishing second and third, but hasn't been able to close the deal. Hard to believe he hasn't scored a top 5 finish this year. They've been on both ends of the spectrum today, between both loose and tight. On the last run, he was loose on entry and tied off. Robbie Loomis made a track bar and wedge adjustment. The car is slowly taking off, currently running in the 6th position. But Jeff Hammond, he told me they feel like that this tire is going to be a tire that Jeff is really going to take to. They just have to figure it out more and more. And believe it or not, they've never gone to Kentucky to test. They're going to do it next week.
Well, right now, as he's saying that, that's exactly what this team needs to do. And a lot of drivers, including guys like Dale Earnhardt, Matt Kenseth, I think a lot of the veteran drivers have struggled with the feel of this race car, and they really need to go to a place like Kentucky and work on the field.
All right, Jeff Gordon trying to catch Greg Biffle in the 16 car, currently running in the 5th spot. Let's listen in.
Greg, our lap times are a little better than the run before. I think if we try the track bar, maybe we can keep the wedge where it is. See if that'll help you at all.
Yeah, I agree. I'm better, but just a little too loose to be aggressive.
10-4.
Right now, Chris, you're listening to the crew chief right there, Doug Richard, talking to his driver, and they're trying to come up with a combination of the adjustments between the track bar and the wedge to try to make it where it will do what Greg wants the car to do, allow him to be aggressive. He doesn't want the car too tight, but he can't stand it to be too loose either, so that when he gets after the throttle, starts really wanting to get aggressive with the wheel and get up on it, the car will get away from him, so he's got to be real careful with these adjustments.
All right, let's go upstairs. Larry Mack on that. Larry?
You know, we've been listening to a lot of communications between Greg Biffle and his crew chief, Doug Richard. They have a good chemistry right now. Doug's very confident when he tells Greg something. It sounds like Greg believes in him. And a lot of people don't know the history of Doug Richard. He was the crew chief when Dale Earnhardt won his very first Winston Cup championship back in 1980. Doug has a lot of experience, has searched around for the right place. I believe he's found the right place here of late.
I tell you, it's all in, you know, it's people. It's all about getting the right people in the right places. I think we saw that with Rusty Wallace and some of the changes he's made, and now we're seeing it with Biffle and Doug Richard.
Greg Biffle in 5th. Casey Kane is our leader. Dale Jr., 7th place, and he's just ahead of pole sitter Bobby Labonte and Joe Nemechek. There you see that he's 10 seconds off the lead. He has led. He's been as far deep in the field as 10th. Now up at 2nd place, that's heating up between Elliott Sadler and Bill Elliott. So we've got Dodge, Ford, Dodge, Chevy with Jimmy Johnson 4th and Greg Biffle 5th. There's the second place race. And a moment ago, it's settled out at about half a second now between them.
I tell you, these guys are battling for second, but that kid up there leading this race, Casey Kane, he's in his own time zone right now because he's almost 3/10 of a lap quicker than this group right here, Elliott Sadler in the 38 and Casey's teammate Bill Elliott in the 91.
He's living on Tulsa time right now.
Dick Berggren.
Elliott Sadler is having his best run of the year right now, Mike. Joy, you were talking about people. Todd Parrott, his crew chief, has just been on the radio telling him, be smooth, we have a long way to go. That in response to Sadler's comment that the car is free off, tight in the middle, and free in. They will make some adjustments to that automobile to make sure by the end of the day it is built Ford tough.
Elliott Sadler leading Ford in the race in second place. Greg Biffle is 5th. Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth.
There you see his crew chief, Todd Parrott, has one win here as a crew chief with Dale Jarrett. They came here and tested a few weeks ago. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I talked to Todd Parrott this morning, and he just had so much confidence about that race car. But that 24 car, I believe he's getting a little stronger as we approach the halfway point of this race. Jeff Gordon, as he battles his teammate, Jimmy Johnson, in the 48. This is a battle for 4th, and Greg Biffle in that 16 is right in the mix.
Yeah, they just passed Biffle. And Gordon had been tracking Jimmy Johnson for a long, long time, Darrell. Hadn't put a move on him until now.
And we heard Biffle say, you know, I can't be aggressive right now. So he's not going to put up a real hard fight. He's just probably fall in behind these guys and follow them for a while.
If you can't be aggressive, Darrell, after a lap or two of being frustrated at that, how do you change your game plan?
Well, you just got to realize that the best thing you can do is get in a place where there's nobody around you, nobody that close in front of you, nobody right up under your back bumper, so you can focus solely on your driving. A loose race car takes a lot of concentration, and I think that's what he's trying to do, is find a place where he's comfortable without anybody pressuring him.
Back behind Biffle is Earnhardt Jr. and then Bobby Labonte, the pole sitter, who runs in 8th place. Steve Burns.
And Michael Fatback McSwain, his crew chief, just asked for a status check on his race car, and Bobby said, well, after the first 10 laps, the car was really too loose. Now it's got a bad push. A similar situation, Matt Yoakum, that you described on Jeff Gordon's car.
Ryan Newman inching into the top 10, currently running in the 10th position. He survived a wheel vibration back on lap 82. Back on lap 120, Matt Borland made a wedge and air pressure adjustment on the left side of the tire because the car was still tight, a condition he's been fighting all day long. Ryan just told Matt on the radio, we've got a top 5 car, we just can't get through traffic to prove it.
On the right, Jeff Gordon has passed Jimmy Johnson. They went past Greg Biffle. Jeff worked him over and finally got past his teammate. But it wasn't easy. Jimmy didn't make it easy for him.
No, well, when you got one guy high, one guy low, you got to come together somewhere. And it's usually on the exit of the turn. The guy on the inside usually has to lift a little bit, and he loses his momentum.
You know, guys, with our sport somewhat being an engineering-driven sport, they look at trends. And I know even this morning in our production meeting, we talked about cautions. I think only having 2 cautions at this point of the race, when you look at last year, we had 10 cautions. I think that has thrown some of these teams a little bit of a curve. Not many opportunities to adjust that race car.
Well, the average speed of the fastest race here was by Terry Labonte, and that was 144.2 miles an hour. And right now, we're averaging 156 miles an hour. So we're way up as far as average speed goes.
You see Jimmy Spencer there in front of our leader, who picked up the ride in the what is now the Featherlight Chevy, the Morgan McClure car, made an unscheduled pit stop under green, and then for exiting too fast had to make a penalty stop. So Spencer goes another lap down to Casey Kane, our leader in Texas.